This is the first worked example for arrays. The subgoal labels for evaluating array statements are: Subgoal 1, set up the array from 0 to size -1. Subgoal 2, then evaluate the data type of the statements against the array. Subgoal 3, trace the statements, updating the array slots as you go. Some of these statements may be assignment statements, and remember, you can go back to your assignment subgoals. Here's the problem that we want to solve. Assume the following given declarations: int .. Evaluate these statements and then determine the value of all the variables used. If any error occurs, give the reason. Then we have the statements that we want to evaluate. For subgoal 1, we need to set up the array from 0 to size -1. We have the statement alpha equals new int, open bracket 5, close bracket. Alpha then is declared as an array of ints. The statement allocates 5 slots for integers, so we want to set it up so that the first line in the graphic are the indexes, the second line are the values or the content inside the array. Note that the largest index is 4. That's the size of the array 5 minus 1. We've completed subgoal 1. Now let's look at subgoal 2, which says to evaluate the data type of the statements against the array. We can look at all of the statements and see that they only involve integers. Notice that for every set of brackets in the statements, the result will be an integer because we have an integer array. All of the array indices on the left-hand side of the assignment statements are within the bounds of the array, 0 to 4. We can see that some of the index values on the right-hand side of the array are within bounds, but we need to calculate some of them to see if they're all valid. Subgoal 3 says to trace the statements, updating the array slots as you go. First, let's look at the first two statements. The first statement says alpha at index 4 is equal to 22. 22 is an integer, and we know that alpha is an array of integers, so we want to copy the value 22 at index 4 into the array. The second statement says alpha at index 0 is assigned the value 10. So we copy the value 10 into alpha sub 0. That's the resulting array. Now let's look at the next statement. Alpha sub 1 is equal to alpha sub 4 minus alpha sub 0. First, we look at alpha sub 4 and see that the value is 22. Then we look at alpha sub 0 and see that the value is 10. So now we have the statement alpha sub 1 is equal to 22 minus 10, or alpha sub 1 is assigned the value 12. Let's look at the next statement. Alpha sub 2 is equal to alpha sub 1 minus alpha sub 0. If we look at alpha at index 1, it has the value 12. Alpha at index 0 has the value 10. So alpha sub 2 gets 12 minus 10, or 2. So the value 2 is then copied into the place alpha at index 2. The next statement, alpha sub 3 equals alpha sub 2 minus 1. First, just like with math, you look at the innermost brackets first. So we want to see what is at alpha position 2. That's the value 2. Then we look at alpha at position 2 minus 1, or alpha sub 1, and that's the value 12. So alpha at position 3 now gets the value 12. The last statement says alpha at position 4 is assigned the value alpha at alpha sub 3. Again, you start with the innermost brackets and say, what is the value of alpha at position 3? That is 12. Now we try to get the value alpha at position 12, only there is no position 12 in array alpha. That's out of bounds. This will generate an index out of bounds exception. That is the end of this worked example.